And hello, welcome back to the Gay Racing Podcast. Zack and Alex are back with you today to talk about, well, they called it a race. I don't know if it was a race, but NASCAR at Bristol happened. So
it happened.
The streets claim it was a race. We have a lot to talk about with that because it was really bad. I don't know what the worst race. Well, I don't know. I know a few weeks ago I said, like, I'd rather watch a boring race than to watch this. What was I talking about, girl? Give me the messy chaos at this point. No, I want to see the mess. I'd rather watch the Daytona 500 over this. Good Lord, I hated that race. Give me the mess. I don't know what I was saying.
Man,
so we got to talk about Bristol.
It was bad.
IndyCar at Long Beach, which I think we actually have some nice things to say about IndyCar.
I have conflicting things to say about IndyCar.
Oh, okay. Well, no. Yeah. IMSA was also at Long Beach, so we'll talk about them. F1 was at Bahrain. We'll talk about that. I don't know. We'll give a
we'll have a lot to talk about. There's some other news topics we're going to talk about. Yeah. Some hot topics that were going on.
Yeah, because,
we have a lot to talk about in the next hour or so.
Penske was off somewhere during the week, and we got to talk about that. But also, we're mostly talking about Bristol today, and unfortunately, not very positive because that race yesterday sucked. To be fair, I wasn't that surprised. However, Saturday gave everyone such false hope because obviously, last spring the Bristol race, we had that crazy tire wear. And the racing was amazing. We had comers and goers. It was very entertaining. You didn't know what was going to happen. And Saturday, we had tires cording after 40 laps in practice. And we were like, oh my God, we're so back. It's happening again. And it was such a weird thing last year because we couldn't figure out why it was happening. It didn't happen in the fall race at all. Right. But then we get to the race and they kind of putter around for 40 laps and we're like, I feel like those were they're the most intense 40 laps, I think, because we're like everyone's like, is it gonna, are the tires gonna fall? Like any moment the tires could just start falling off, It
was really funny when Kyle Larson suddenly took off because he's like, yeah, no, we're fine. They're not wearing. Let's go.
And we'll have to talk about that because I think that was actually a key moment in the race on why he actually won the race because he blinked first. And I think at least today's race, or not today's race, but this weekend's race, I think helped kind of solve part of that puzzle because it seems to be a track temperature thing. Like when the colder temps, and I don't know if it's because of the concrete. I don't know. I'm gay, but like, because of concrete, when it's cold, the rubber doesn't lay down, which means the track stays abrasive, which means the tires just get chewed up by the abrasive surface. I don't know. Apparently that's what's going on. It was too warm yesterday and the rubber sticked. And when the rubber, it's like, I guess the rubber kind of makes the asphalt softer. Does that make sense? So it's not chewing the tires up. So that's, yeah. So we had what we had last fall where nothing happened. Nothing happened. I mean,
well, I was optimistic because of what happened on Saturday. I'm like, oh, we might actually have tire wear, and then that didn't happen. Kyle Larson went on to lead 411 of the 500 laps. He's still short of sweeping the weekend. Zack will have to wait until next year. But
he's having the opposite of what Kyle Busch struggled with, where Kyle Busch couldn't win the cup race of the sweep. Kyle Larson cannot win the Xfinity or truck races of his sweeps. Sorry to cut you off.
Nothing happened in this race. There's nothing to talk about.
Can I say the only part where I was mildly interested was the same part as Darlington when they had green flag pit stops. I was like, this is the chance. This is where something could happen. Did anything happen? No.
But here's
something could happen.
Here's the problem with NASCAR right now. It's either nothing happens and it's boring, or you go on the super extreme and it's just like too much is happening.
That's true.
And it is so super, super frustrating because, I don't like overtime. That's when things get too crazy and we have like 12 overtimes, whatever. Or this, nothing is happening. And domination can be a fun thing to watch. And I would say like Martinsville was pretty impressive, seeing what Denny Hamlin did. What William Byron did at Darlington was pretty impressive, right? But there were actually things happening throughout the field to an extent in those two races. They weren't super thrilling for Darlington and Martinsville standards, but they were still, I could watch them and tolerate those races. Again, nothing happened at Bristol. No one could pass
There's
each other.
literally nothing to talk about.
They were gridlocked. It was just follow the leader.
Yeah.
I mean, this was the fewest number of cautions in a Bristol Cup race since 1982. 2 of the cautions were the stage cautions. I mean, look, no cautions is a good thing, right? But we want them to be able to try and actually race each other. And when you have that, that's when cautions typically happen.
Yeah, and drivers make mistakes too, like when they're racing each other, they make mistakes.
And the only other caution was Shane Van Gisbergen, who is a rookie in the Cup Series. He's still learning this car. He's having a really rough season. He was the only caution because he made a mistake. Everyone else is just so gridlocked in. And, that such a frustrating race. This was also the first time that back-to-back Cup races that had 4 or fewer lead changes since 1976 and 1977, which was the season finale to the season opener.
That's crazy.
And
that's 50 years ago. We're setting 50 years. Now, again, that's also 2 extreme circumstances, but not really, though. Because Byron was class of the field last week.
Mm-hmm.
Larson, somewhat class of the field at Bristol. Sure.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I don't know. I think that we do have a problem in that. It's not really a coincidence that the stat gets broken for the first time after 50 years.
And
it's got to be
stats are made to be broken, but we are supposed to be in the most competitive era of motorsports, right?
Yeah.
And we're having these races where they're all just going the same speed. No one can pass each other. No one's car is better than the other. It's not that Kyle Larson's better than everyone else. That's not true. Yeah. We saw last week he wrecked twice and finished 50th position. Like that's not the case, right?
No.
He, of course, Larson had to earn it. He had to drive his way there. He had to, make his way through lap traffic and everything. There's just nothing exciting going on. And we had a couple Patreon comments who have an opposing view of our Zack.
Yeah.
Both Chris and Phil said sometimes a race just gets dominated while the racing isn't exciting. It's kind of neat to see Larson and Hamlin have dominant short track performances. But again, nothing else happened.
Yeah, because honestly, I don't like having this conversation about, and I almost hate giving time of day of like the lead change statistics. I hate lead change statistics because that's just one position of 40. You know what I mean? Like, there's a lot more going on.
None of the other spots were changing either.
That's what I was going to get to. Like, in fact, look at the Xfinity race the day before. Same driver is dominating. The exact same driver is dominating, but the rest of the field is still interacting with each other, right?
Yeah.
And also, it's like, Larson can even dominate harder in a somewhat entertaining way because you're almost like, okay, how many cars can he lap, right? Because, that car was built. It's built to be faster than the other cars. It's a faster driver, of course, because he's a Cup driver. I mean, I'm not going to say it was a barn burner. It wasn't that good of a race, but we had drivers making mistakes. I mean, Sheldon Creed got spun by somebody and then someone hit Sheldon Creed. We had some wrecks. It was a motor race where people made mistakes. People were fast. We had interactions. Larson interacted with Justin Allgaier. Like, why do we watch racing, Alex? We want to see what happens.
Mm-hmm.
But when you know what's going to happen and nothing's going to change, that's when you don't want to watch it anymore, right? Sure, we might know that the leader's not going to change, but what's going to happen with second? What's going to happen with third? How does that impact the championship? That's why we watch racing. And
this wasn't racing on Sunday.
Yesterday's race had none of that. None of that. And it's just...
And so Kyle Larson's crew chief Cliff Daniels said from a racing purist standpoint, today's race was a heck of a race. And then Noah Lewis said that Daniels cited that he watched Rusty Wallace's dominant performance at Bristol in 2004, which Wallace ended up losing with a bad pit stop at the end. From that perspective, okay, you still have to make it through all 500 laps, right?
Yeah.
And the 5 team had to push through that pressure and everything, and you have to be perfect. But again, Zach,
think there's some merit to that.
Especially
that
sense.
green flag cycle. Imagine being Cliff Daniels. Like, put yourself in his shoes for a moment. I wish I was in his shoes. And imagine though, like you've had control of this race for over 400 laps, and you have to make the call to call him to pit road at Bristol. You're going to put him a lap down, right? During the cycle. Imagine that stress. And then, we talked about pit crews last week, how pit crews can decide everything. Of course, it's green flag stops. He has an actual buffer to second place, so there's probably not that much pressure. But still, like, there is something impressive and interesting about, watching Larson dominate that race. And it's, again, I say, we watch racing to see what happens. Everyone yesterday was watching like, okay, so is Larson going to keep this up? I mean, 90%, yeah, but there's always that 10% where it's like something's going to happen, right? And yesterday during that pit cycle, that caution could have came out. Everything changes. So
right.
That's the only thing. And I mentioned earlier, green flag stops are when I actually kind of like got interested in the race yesterday, right? And then Denny had a different kind of tire situation than Larson. Like, oh, maybe he could pass him. Nope. Not happening.
But here's the difference between this race and the race in 2004 is that the tires were actually wearing.
Yeah.
Because there was a point in this race, Ryan Blaney stayed out on 100+ old lap tires and was running identical lap times to Kyle Larson, who was on 30 or so lap tires.
Yeah. And part of that's where because they're stuck behind the same car. Like they're both stuck behind a car.
and that's the thing. That's where Cliff Daniels' argument here, that's a racing purist standpoint. It just falls apart because it's not purist racing when all the cars are so equal and the tires are not falling off.
Yeah.
Like, that's not racing. It's not
such an awful
Bristol.
Statement. Of course, the winning crew chief's gonna be like, that was a great race. I bet you did think it was a good race, Cliff.
And I don't blame him and Kyle Larson for saying those kind of things. Like, you won the race.
They worked their ass
off
for that win. Like, they deserve to celebrate it too. I'm not even saying that. Like, they deserve to celebrate it.
It just goes back to there's just a lot of missing factors with this kind of race right now. Like the tires didn't wear. Frustrating. But then that just goes back to the question, what needs to change? Because NASCAR hasn't done anything with the stupid car. I'm getting really frustrated.
This is year 4 of the next gen car.
And
nothing's changed.
Zach, we've been doing this podcast for 5 years now, right? And we've said so many times, oh, I liked this car. I like the car from like the 2000s. I don't like the Gen 7 car. I don't like that they do this. They need to add more horsepower. They need to take this off the car.
And they've done some things, like the diffuser got simplified at short tracks, but that's it.
Well, it's not helping. This is a short track. It ain't working.
And I'm sorry to cut you off, but like, we had this race last year and I hate what that race did because it made
everyone's expectations
it made everyone turn to Goodyear. Oh, Goodyear will fix our car. Goodyear can just make a softer tire. How's that working out for us? And people are blaming Goodyear for yesterday. If it was 10 degrees colder, those tires are wearing, trust me.
We saw it on Saturday and we saw it last year.
But this Goodyear
I appreciate
cannot be responsible.
Goodyear is trying. We've seen it at other races this year, like with the Phoenix. That was a better race because we had an option tire and everything. But they alone cannot fix this. Bristol, Martinsville, and Darlington are the last 3 races on the schedule. I would defend Martinsville and Darlington to an extent, but this race is unacceptable. This is supposed to be a marquee track on the NASCAR calendar, and it's just a snooze fest.
Yeah, people claim the Bristol night race as a crown jewel of NASCAR, which I disagree with, but that's what people claim. Fans are that passionate about that event.
This is a track I want to visit one day, but not if it's going to look like
anytime
this.
soon. I'm not going anytime soon, girl.
It's just like, what's NASCAR going to do? They're going to put dirt back on it? Is that going to fix all the problems? Because, Zach, you and I were talking about it, right? They threw dirt on it when Bristol was still pretty good.
And you know what, Alex? We'll get to Bristol in a minute. Let's start with Bristol itself, because the narrative this morning on social media is that actually Bristol has always kind of been a lame track.
Insane. Literally
I understand the argument that maybe before 2007 or after 2007, when they made progressive banking on, made that happen. Sure. If the racing was different after that. However, as someone who's been watching NASCAR since 2007, 2008, Bristol has always had a special place in my heart. Just as one of the coolest NASCAR tracks. And that was completely, I've only watched progressive banking Bristol races, right? Where the top side was usable and good and all that stuff. Have there been boring Bristol races? Of course. There's no track on the schedule that has had 100% not boring races. We've had boring Talladega races. We've had boring Daytona races. I mean, it's racing, right? You're going to have snoozers. The thing with Bristol, though, is it's just kind of crazy. I can think of so many iconic moments and iconic races just from the time I've been watching, right? Whether it's just simple stuff like, Kyle Busch's weekend sweeps, whether it's Brad Keselowski's 2012 race, like the night race that he won, whether it's maybe Tony Stewart throwing the helmet at Matt Kenseth, whether it's, I could go on through the last few years where it was, 2020, the 2020 spring race. Remember that? Absolute barn burner. Chase Elliott and Joey Logano are mad at each other. 2021 fall where it's Harvick and Chase Elliott and they go to the hauler and they talk it out. We've had so many iconic races. Jeff Gluck's poll, and I hate using Jeff Gluck's poll as like any kind of science or anything. Before the top 8 races on Jeff Gluck's poll, which has been going on since 2016, are Bristol races. All of them the Gen 6 car. One of them with the high downforce package in 2019. None of them with the next gen car. Not even the tire race. The crazy tire race from last spring.
Yeah.
Oh, but Bristol's the problem. Bristol's always been bad.
And to go a step further, Zach, just to relate to us specifically, episode 3 of the Gay Racing Podcast is titled "We Heart Bristol,"
and that was 2020,
Bristol fall 2020.
What even happened in the race? I think it was just like Harvick and Busch fighting for the win. Nothing too crazy, but it was entertaining, right?
It was a standard good Bristol race.
It was a standard good Bristol race. Stuff was happening. I bet there were some drivers that got wrecked in that race and their playoff hopes got crushed. Drivers wrecked.
We have strayed so far from the plot with Bristol. Bristol itself is not the problem. It's the car. We have experimented enough NASCAR. They need to go back. I think it's time for Gen 8, frankly.
We keep skirting around the issue. That's what gets me. It's like, oh, it's not the car. It's Goodyear. We got to go to Goodyear. And now it's like, no, the tracks, the schedule, these short tracks, we can't go to there anymore. Oh, more super speedways, more road courses, more intermediate tracks with multi-grooves.
And you know what really
spend
sucks,
all this money
Zach?
On your tracks.
What really sucks is that the short tracks right now are arguably worse than what the intermediates were in the doomsdays of the intermediates of the mid-2010s. Honestly.
I think the difference is back even just like 5 years ago, I think intermediate tracks were boring because the field would just get spread out. And before high downforce, like 2017, remember we watched that Michigan race over break or over New Year's, and we're like, girl, they are so spread out right now. But now races are boring just because they're gridlocked. Like, yeah, they're running close. They might not be spread out, but nothing's happening. No one's interacting with each other.
But my point is that we lost so many intermediate tracks because of how bad, they were interpreted to be in the 2010s. I'm fearful that NASCAR is just going to say, well, we need to take off the short tracks. They're the problem. It's not our car. It would never be our car. We never would cause this. So what happens if we start losing these dates at like a Bristol or a Martinsville? Like, that is the core of what NASCAR should be.
Bristol
I can't. This is insane.
We should
These
take
are supposed
Bristol
to be
in Martinsville. We should take races away from them.
Oh my God. These are supposed to be the best tracks on the schedule. Add Darlington in there too. Just because Darlington isn't multi-groove track, it's considered a boring track now. Does NASCAR hear what people are saying?
Like, it's not even like people going like, well, Bristol, people are still holding on to the Bristol nostalgia from early 2000s and the 90s. No, Alex and I are talking about 5 years ago.
2020.
5 years ago.
The COVID-19 pandemic was going on and Bristol was good.
Bristol and Martinsville absolutely ate it up every time we went there. Kind of. Again, not every single race, but I mean, they were the most iconic races of the sport.
And not every race will be a banger. We've talked about that a million times too. That's fine.
The expectation is that we have passes.
Yes. A race. Not just follow the leader.
Stop gaslighting us. We're not like this is not our first year watching racing. Like,
no.
Yes,
I've
we
been
remember
watching
the
this since
past.
I was a baby.
We remember 5 years ago when racing was not like this. Are we going are we wrong? Tell us in the comments if we're wrong.
See, Zach, you were about to say
better 5 years ago. I'm pretty sure it was.
Zach, you were about to say, are we going crazy? That's been my whole mindset with racing lately. I'm just like, am I going crazy or do I just not like this anymore?
Like, why do I watch this?
What is going on? Why do I watch this? Honestly, like, what is going on?
This is about to be the gay Mario Kart podcast soon if y'all don't get your stuff together.
For real, though. Like, listen,
we'll talk about motorsports at the Indy 500 once a year. That's it. Then we'll talk about Mario Kart the rest of the year.
Let me go a little side tangent real quick. I've gotten no enjoyment out of racing this past couple months, honestly, with y'all. I've been having more enjoyment out of Mario Kart, Nintendo stuff. I just rewatched Avatar: The Last Airbender. I'm having a
more
good
fun
time
watching me do iRacing.
Yes, I do.
At this point, I think I have fun with iRacing. Watching races, I'm like, Sunday,
I had one episode of Avatar: The Last Airbender to go, the like 5 or 4 part finale, right?
Yeah.
I turn on NASCAR. I'm like, okay, after this and after IndyCar, I can finish this rewatch. I'm so excited. I'm like dreading every moment of this damn race. And then IndyCar comes on. Then I got to get we'll talk about Fox in a bit and put them on the same time. Then we put IndyCar on and I'm like, there's too much going on. I'm overstimulated trying to watch 2 races at the same time. I enjoyed my evening so much when I turned racing off. That should not be how I feel when I live and breathe racing. It is so frustrating that I am having this kind of predicament with myself, you know? It's frustrating. And if they say, oh, you know what? We're going to put dirt back on Bristol. Like, you are ignoring the problem. If you're like, you know what? We're going to turn a track we don't like into a super speedway. What the hell's wrong with you? We don't need more. No.
Okay, no. But I will say, Dirt Bristol was actually kind of good racing.
And listen, you know what? I agree.
Yes. Here's the thing that people are getting lost on. Again, I'm not just remembering stuff wrong, okay? Here's what happened. Because people remember that everyone complained about Bristol Dirt, Jeff Cluck. Here's what happened. We went to Bristol Dirt after 2020. 2020, we had a banger spring race at Bristol and a really good fall race at Bristol, judging by the title of episode 3 of the Gay Racing Podcast, right?
Yeah, yep.
So Bristol was one of the best tracks in NASCAR, and they decided to put dirt on it. And then we show up there in March, and they were not ready. They weren't ready for the mud. They weren't ready for the visibility. They weren't ready for the dust. They weren't ready to treat the track during the stages. There's probably something else I'm missing. They were not ready, and it was kind of a disaster of a race weekend, rather. The race itself was just kind of whatever. It was kind of boring, to be honest. They weren't ready for it. I was like, wow, you got rid of one of the best races on the schedule for Dirt Bristol. That's crazy. That's why I was upset about it. And you can go back. You can go back to episode whatever that was. You can go back and check it. I swear that's what I said. And then, you know, we go to the next gen car in 2022, and it's like, you know, they were a little bit more prepared this time. We still had some drama with the red flag and the rules because we thought Kyle Busch was going to win the race or something during the red flag. Everyone was confused because people pitted, whatever. But the racing itself was actually pretty good. We had a weird last lap moment with Tyler Reddick and Chase Briscoe, and Kyle Busch steals it. Entertaining, great. 2023, great race. Just a great race. We didn't know who was going to win.
Good. That's when
I don't even remember what happened in the race, but I remember enjoying it. I think that's a key to a good race. I don't remember what happened, but I remember I had a good time watching it, right?
Yeah.
So my point is we went to Bristol Dirt too early. We went to Bristol Dirt when Bristol was one of the best races on the schedule. Now, Bristol is honestly the worst race on the schedule. What's a worst track right now for racing?
Oh.
I can't think of one. Sonoma
this might
maybe
be the worst race I've ever watched.
It's really bad. And we watched some bad races, but this was pretty bad. I mean,
we lived through Kentucky.
Girl.
Kentucky was awful.
And at least like any like high downforce mile and a half race at least has exciting restarts. Bristol you can't have that at Bristol. So what needs to happen now, honestly, the spring, especially the spring race, don't touch the night race, obviously, but the spring race at Bristol, girl, if y'all were worried about her dying before, oh, honey, no one's showing up to this race next year unless maybe you put dirt on it again. I mean, I would enjoy that. I think I'm not joking. No, that's the thing. I'm not joking.
Okay.
No, Alex, I'm being serious. I'd rather have Dirt Bristol back. I enjoyed the 2023 race. And at this point, you'd put on better racing. It's in the regular season. It's a random dirt race. Should it be the All-Star race? Probably. Maybe that's also what they could do. Make it the All-Star race, whatever they want to do. And then North Wilkesboro could be a points race. Okay, we're cooking.
Yeah.
So, you know what? I think Dirt Bristol needs to come back. We left it. We went to it too early. They should have never went to it in 2021. This should be Dirt Bristol should have never happened yet. It should be an idea now. This is the time for it to be the new idea okay, here's how we fix Bristol because we need to fix Bristol because that's the problem.
Wow.
Rolling my eyes.
You're cooking, to be honest with you.
I am cooking.
Because you're right. If they would have done this next year, the Dirt Bristol, everyone would be like, oh my gosh, this is so much better. This is so cool. NASCAR's trying to fix it.
They would at least be like, thank God. No one was saying that in 2021. They were like, why?
It made no sense to do it. And in 21, the reason was no one was showing up. It was attendance.
I don't know if anyone's showing up anymore.
Now the product is bad and no one shows up.
So, and people were saying, Xfinity and trucks also sucked this weekend. Okay, honey, no, they were interacting with each other. That's just not.
That's an exaggeration.
And Xfinity, we've seen barn burners there, especially at the night races. Remember that finish with Allmendinger and Cindric in the truck races? I think it was Christian Eckes and Kyle Busch dueling last year at the Bristol truck race in the spring. We've seen plenty of good races with those cars in the last few years.
Yeah, the Xfinity race was fine. The truck race was kind of whatever, but
Xfinity race had larcenisms.
They weren't bad.
People were getting upset, and then we went back to we can't have cup drivers in these races, blah, blah, blah. Oh, God, so sick of it.
Yeah.
One more thing. Remember a few weeks ago when I said, maybe we should just run option tires for the tracks that are really bad. I was talking about Bristol. Yesterday with option tires, literally, if you cannot fix, if NASCAR will not fix this car, I want option tires at all of these tracks. All of the tracks. All of the really bad tracks, at least. Like, Daytona, Talladega, some mile and a half, whatever. But I think NASCAR, they need to go the F1 route and, the IndyCar route too. Have multiple tire compounds at this point if you can't figure out this car.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a GT3 car anyways. So, go ahead and do it.
One more thing about Bristol Dirt.
We're going back.
I was saying,
go back.
I was saying that it would be kind of silly for them to revert back to that, right? But based on what you're saying, I get your argument. I still think that if they were to go back to that, they are missing the point. They are missing what's actually the problem.
They're going to miss the point anyways.
And I think what you're saying is more of a prediction of what they're actually going to do. I could see that happening.
No, it's not even a prediction. It's just what I think they should do. Because honestly, I don't know. They could do it, maybe.
I think they should. They should fix the car.
They're not going to.
That's what I'm saying. At this point, they haven't. I'd rather they do that than go back to Dirt Bristol. But yeah.
You said, are we ready for Gen 8? Now, I don't know what goes into that because I don't think...
Can it be worse than this?
The Gen 5 car, the COT, that lasting for only 5 years. Okay, but the Gen 6 car was just kind of a new body on top of that chassis. So I don't think that really counts as like a... they only had the COT for 5 years and then they changed it. So I don't think you can say that. So I don't know what that looks like. Are they going to change it? What do they need to change? I don't know. I'm gay. So I'm just a fan.
And what really sucks is with the COT, it got really good by year 3.
Yeah.
And we're pretty much at that point, if not beyond it. So I feel if we're not figuring it out, we got to just move on.
I think what's messed up a lot of people's perception is the next gen car had a very good first impression in 2022 because no one had it figured out. And I mean, no one, because it was a completely different platform. It wasn't until like the last few years that teams have figured out, oh, we need to set this car up like a SpongeBob boat where the front end is sticking up in the air. No, but literally, like the rear needs to be down, the front needs to be up. And then that made all the dirty air problems worse. And now that teams have everything figured out, well, Larson, Bell, and Hamlin have won 7 of the 9 races so far this season.
Yep.
And the other ones were won by a Hendrick car and then a Penske car. So,
yep.
Now I know that's a very small sample size with, you know, Atlanta in there and Coda and stuff, but still.
Like, yeah. I mean, we're a good chunk of the way through the regular season already.
Yeah.
So,
and again, parity is one thing. It's just like, if we're gonna have F1 type of, you know, dominating winners, we got to make it like F1 to where it's interesting, especially with the schedule NASCAR has. I mean, you're never gonna have a team or driver that's good at 100% of the schedule. Never, especially with NASCAR schedule. Even in F1, they have, you know, Max Verstappen was great at Suzuka. He dominates Suzuka. Then he comes to Bahrain and he's not even on the podium, I think.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, correct. You know, what are we doing?
Yeah. Well, another aspect of what made this rough is, you know, Fox Sports. We talk about them every week, but we have a Patreon comment from John. Said, Fox continues to be terrible. Following Blaney's in-car on Max is the only thing these blander races can do for me. Can make them, like, tolerable. And Blaney, 2 Patreon members
every week.
Patreon members, Finley and Chris, echoed this comment. They replied to John saying that they agreed. So my other thing with Fox is, why did they start IndyCar in stage 3?
Yesterday
and
was
2,
a disaster. Yeah.
Why did Fox promote IndyCar as starting after NASCAR when IndyCar was already like halfway done when NASCAR ended? Which, by the way, NASCAR ended at about 3 hours, under 3 hours.
Yeah.
So if this race would have had cautions like normal, the race would have ended by the time IndyCar ended.
Right. Yesterday was such a disaster, especially because pre-race for NASCAR started at like 1:30.
Mm-hmm.
Girl, start the race at 1:30. That's what I thought was going to happen last week. I think I mentioned on the podcast, like, they're not conflicting. No, I just didn't understand where the start time was. What, like, Fox? Why does NASCAR really need to be that late in the afternoon? I understand they're trying to maximize ratings, but what about IndyCar? Because you're splitting your audience. You are.
So silly.
There's only so many American motorsport fans, right? I mean, there's a the Masters were on too, by the way. The Masters were on yesterday afternoon. Like, that happened, like, that ended after the NASCAR race was over or something. So you don't want to conflict with that either, right?
Yeah.
So, you know, NASCAR should be on at 1:30, and then just about the time NASCAR's over, IndyCar probably just started at Long Beach. It's fine. You know, if you miss the first few laps, whatever. But then IndyCar's on, you know, West Coast, so it's not that late for them anyways. Like, I can't believe Fox is... I feel like it's setting IndyCar up for failure, 1.
Well, yeah.
And then 2, it's like kind of disrespectful to fans of both series. Because, I mean, Alex, you said to me yesterday that you just felt like overstimulated. Like, it's like you have to follow 2 races at once. It's a lot. You know, I mean, well, there was nothing happening in NASCAR, so I guess.
Well, it was just like, in case something did happen, I was trying to follow like the green flag pit stops that were going on when IndyCar had started. I was like, okay, maybe nothing happened, but it was just like, you know, frustrating. One thing about Fox, and we'll talk about IndyCar, Mike Joy like totally did not know the race ended. Clint Boyer didn't either. They were just having a conversation about Larson not getting the sweep.
Oh yeah, the call to the finish.
Yeah, when they got to the finish line, and then during like the cool down lap, Mike Joy called it as a win.
I think that was more on Clint Boyer being disrespectful and not letting Mike do his job. Which
sounds about right.
Is this the first time that's happened?
No,
not even this year.
No.
Yeah, I want a new booth. I want a new everything. New car. I want a new booth. I want a new broadcast partner. I want a new everything. I want a new spot. I need a new hobby. God.
And welcome
last episode
to
of the Gay Racing Podcast ever.
Welcome to the Gay Mario Kart Podcast.
We're going to take a break next week, and they're going to be like, oh my God, they actually quit.
We actually might take a break next week, so don't get too
I think we need
alarmed.
a break. It's the only week off we have until November, like with NASCAR. So
yeah.
I feel like everyone should take it. Although Xfinity's at Rockingham, which I'll watch.
Sorry to Rockingham. This ain't your fault, but I ain't watching. Casey Kane's in that race. That's my man. I ain't watching.
Oh hell, Alex. Okay, if Casey Kane wins though, you gotta at least put it on your phone. Actually, I'll text you if he's leading. I'll text you if he's leading.
Okay.
How about that?
Yeah. And
I'll give you Casey. I'll give you Casey Kane updates.
Thank you.
I hope he wins so you can get the diecast. That'd be cool.
Ooh, that'd be cool.
You need to get the diecast anyways. Because we can have matching Hendrick Cars diecast.
Aww, I don't have a HendrickCars.com diecast yet.
I have 70 of them at this point. I have at least like 6 different Larson ones. I have like one with like 4 different numbers at least. The 5, the 88, the 7, the 17. Yeah, it's great.
I wish he wasn't driving the Childress 33. I wish it was like the 17 Hendrick car or something. But
why do you not like Richard Childress?
I have a couple of reasons.
Your eyebrow just raised so hard. You don't like Richard Childress or anything?
Hold my watch.
Hold my watch. I will hold your watch. That was the most iconic thing Richard Childress ever did.
Let's talk about IndyCar at Long Beach. This is probably the best IndyCar race of the season. To stay on Fox, I like their new driver helmet camera.
Yeah,
that's pretty cool.
I don't know. Yeah, because I know F1's done it a lot before. I think that's where I thought they did it before, but F1's done it a lot before. And that's something that I want to highlight because I think with IndyCar, especially IndyCar's trying to capture the casuals right now. If you want to capture the casuals, you really need to highlight that driving experience. Like highlight what's actually happening for these guys. They're steering with no power steering. They're driving these really fast race cars inches from the wall on the streets of Long Beach, right? I think it's such a perfect way to highlight, and make that and make racing cool without having 4 wide on restarts, right? Throwing shade at NASCAR. So I'm glad, and I think a helmet cam kind of elevates that. I've given praise to when they went on board. Like I always reference this Marco Andretti at Detroit in 2019 when it was wet, and he's like wheeling that thing on slicks on a wet racetrack. That was entertaining. Stuff like that. Simple stuff like that, right? So talk about what's the drivers going through. Definitely more of that. So yes, praise on Fox. Good praise.
Yeah. And by the way, their booth is pretty good. I think Will Buxton's adapted really well. I think
Buxton, yeah. Again, I have nothing to say on him, which is good. I'm just like, sometimes he talks and I'm just like, okay, you know why? It's because he's not Lee Diffie. Yeah. I compare him to Lee Diffie. It's an unreal expectation. It's not his fault at all. It's just, I'm just like, you're not Lee Diffie.
You're being compared to the 2 previous IndyCar play-by-play guys, which are Lee Diffie and Alan Bestwick, arguably the greatest of all time. Yeah. 2 of them. So
yeah. Sometimes he gets a little too sometimes he just talks too much. No, maybe not. I don't know. I think
he's fine.
Anyway, I'm just being a hater.
Let's talk about the race winner, Kyle Kirkwood. He led 46 of 90 laps. He denied Alex Palou of getting 3 wins in a row. This is the Kyle Kirkwood that I've been hyping up for a while because I've been saying I think he's better than Colton Herta. I know it's been a few years. He's now won this race twice, Long Beach, and he's also won at Nashville.
He's like a street circuit specialist. It's so weird.
Really good at street courses.
He's not really that amazing anywhere else. It's just, Long Beach, of course, 2 wins. By the way, 2 wins, 2 Long Beach Grand Prix wins. That's like, it reminds me of like Jamie McMurray a little bit. It's like, oh, I'm winning the crown jewels. I might not win much anywhere else, but I'm winning the crown jewels. That's a big deal. I don't think people are highlighting how big of a deal that is, right? Because Kyle Kirkwood is not really a superstar of the sport. Right. But maybe he should be. He's won the second biggest race twice now. 50 years of the Long Beach Grand Prix, right? A majority of it IndyCar, so in some form. So, I respect the hell out of that. So
yeah, he had a really good run. He held off Palou at the end there.
Impressive. I know it's hard to pass, but still impressive.
The Fox booth, I think it was Townsend Bell, was saying that he's kind of playing the role of Alex Palou today, which I found interesting. Christian Lundgaard also had a pretty good run. He's being very consistent in his early run here at McLaren. Nolan Siegel, on the other hand, was like sick with the stomach bug, I guess. He had food poisoning.
Poor baby.
Poor thing.
Poor baby.
I'm hoping, while we're on McLaren, I hope they don't kick out Nolan Siegel. I know he has money, so he's a bit different than the last like couple of drivers they've had and kicked out. He's been running in the 20s.
I like what they said yesterday that besides Pato Award, the last time that team won was James Hinchcliffe at Long Beach. He said that. Someone said that to James yesterday in the booth. Someone said that to James yesterday in the booth. Like, last time they won without Pato, it was you, James. And I think everyone was just like, what? Like, it's crazy.
Christian Lundgaard's going to end that this year, I think.
I think you're very close because honestly, he's just like, if they have a perfect strategy, he's going to win a race. You know what I mean? He's just going to have a really put together perfect race.
And Lundgaard led quite a bit of laps. He led the second most of anyone in this race. He got another podium. And I believe he's third in points.
He was on like that alternate strategy because I believe he was he started on the hard tires. And honestly, I think that's why he got such a good finish because he got to spend a lot of time in clean air and again, lead a lot of laps. So, yeah. And that's another, again, multiple tire compounds, NASCAR. That's all you got to do. Yeah. It can make a boring race where it's hard to pass kind of interesting.
So staying on like the positive trend here, Kiffin Simpson and Stingray Robb both led some laps, and I find that interesting. They both got top 10s. They finished 9th and 10th. I don't know if that's both of their best career finishes, but it's got to be up there if not.
I know Kiffin Simpson was on that alternate strategy as well. Stingray Robb, I have no idea, but he must have been if he was running long at some point.
Yeah.
You know, I will say yesterday's race, the pit strategy was really fun to see because I mean, we had guys coming out on, you know, the cold tires and they had to hold people off that had warmer tires. And, you know, that was actually some pretty good racing. It's, you know, is it a little sad that it's like we're kind of waiting for the pit cycles? Sure. But NASCAR set the bar really low for this episode. So we're taking it. It makes me feel really good about what I saw yesterday in IndyCar. Right. And Alex, I don't know if you were like engaged at this point, but like near the beginning of the race, Joseph Newgarden was putting it to him. He was diving. He was making Max Verstappen type dives, getting spots. He said in pre-race that he needed to be aggressive because, surprise, he got held up in qualifying.
As always.
He seems to be the only one getting held up in qualifying. Alex Palou.
Yeah, I wonder why that is. What's that about?
Alex Palou never gets held up in qualifying. He's always qualifying fast 6. I don't know, but Joseph
got a bunch of haters on the grid.
To watch yesterday. And he had that seatbelt issue, which we'll get to, but he was so fun to watch yesterday. He did a severe undercut. He pitted on like lap 4 or something. And, you know, he caught a bunch of guys that were coming out of the pits. He put a dive on, I believe it was Marcus Ericsson. That was really fun to watch. Just Joseph was fun to watch yesterday. He was actually, you know, having a pretty good run before his seatbelt came loose and they were having issues with that. And then he finished 50th.
Last. Yeah.
So
last.
That's great.
Yeah.
I had fun watching him.
Penske's just kind of off right now, though. Like, yeah, Joseph looked good yesterday, but where was Will Power? Where was Scott McLaughlin? You know?
And Scott McLaughlin qualified good, you know, like I believe he started top 6. Yeah, he started 6th, right? But Power started 13th, Newgarden started 15th. Like, and we saw them, they had speed at Scott McLaughlin at least had speed at St. Pete, right?
Yeah.
You know, he had the pole, dominated most of that race, just got caught out on the wrong strategy.
So
but yeah,
Power and McLaughlin finished 5th and 6th. So it's not like they were like off, but like for Penske standards, it's kind of like you forget that they're even there.
McLaughlin, you know? He got caught behind he got caught behind, I believe, Scott Dixon on one pit stop. And he lost some time to Lundgaard.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that would have made that much of a difference, but you know, I think we also know, Alex, what is Penske's specialty in IndyCar right now?
It's the ovals.
It's the ovals. Can they afford that? Well, there's at least 6 oval races on the schedule of 17, right? 6, maybe 7. I think it's 6. Why do I feel like it's 7? Iowa, Indy, Gateway, Milwaukee, Nashville. So 6. Can they afford that? Not really. But of course, what does Roger Penske care about the most?
The Indianapolis 500.
Now, is that an excuse for running bad at Long Beach? Absolutely not. I'm just saying.
When we had Elizabeth Blackstock on, we talked about our preseason predictions. We had this kind of discussion, like, is Penske going to be better on the road courses? Are they still going to be putting more and more into the ovals to try and get Joseph that 3 in a row? That was kind of a thing we talked about.
Because you can't focus on both. It's hard to focus on both. Just think about it.
This is making me wonder how they're going to be in Indy. Is Joseph Newgarden actually going to win 3 in a row? Because he has the 2 he's won. He was kind of just not great in the championship points, right? And he's 10th, I think, right now.
Remember a few years ago? We're just nostalgia. This is GRP nostalgia. We keep talking about our first episodes. Remember our first few episodes, or even just 2021, where it's like, man, Joseph's really good at these road courses and stuff, and even Iowa and stuff. And then they show up to the Indy 500 and they qualify bad, and we just never see them.
Like in the teens,
front.
Yeah.
And then they have completely swapped the expectations. Not really completely swapped. I mean, Penske still won a lot of road races last year with McLaughlin. Did Will Power win last year? I think he did, right? Didn't he win? He won Portland last year, I believe. And even race, Joseph, Joseph was supposed to win St. Pete, right? So they're still very competent on road courses. Again, Will Power, Scott McLaughlin, 5th and 6th, but the expectation for them right now, and I love how you bring up Joseph, the 3rd straight win in the Indy 500 for the number 2 team. That is history making.
Never happened before. If it were to happen,
if that's their focus, are you going to blame them?
Roger Penske, like, he's gonna want to try and make history. Like,
he loves big moments. Huge moments, actually, as we'll talk about in a minute. Yeah. He likes big deals. Yeah.
Well, we have more to talk about in a minute. But so, did you like this race, the Long Beach IndyCar race?
I echo that. I was very overstimulated while the race was happening. I was doing something else while the race was going on, so it was hard for me to pay attention to it. Again, I said like 30 minutes ago, why do I watch racing? Because I want to see what happens. Did I know that Kyle Kirkwood was going to win that race? Not until 15 laps to go. Because with all the strategy going on, it was like, I don't know, maybe. Let's see how it plays out. Is it a little boring having to wait the whole race to kind of like see how it's going to come together? Slightly, but much better than NASCAR's race. And I will say, though, I've seen better races at Long Beach.
Yep.
What's different?
I can think of something
that's 100 pounds heavier. Yeah, the cars are 100 pounds heavier. The hybrids.
This goes back to what I said earlier. Is I feel like at times I feel like I'm falling out of love with racing, and it just makes me wonder, like, is it me? Is it the series? Is it the racing quality? And you were asking me earlier, like, do you think it's the quality, or is it just like other external factors? And I think it's a bit of both, but at the same time, like, I've seen much better IndyCar races, obviously better NASCAR races, but focusing on IndyCar, the hybrids have hurt this series so much. So much.
Again, they just weren't prepared.
We have taken such a huge step back in terms of the race quality, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And I made a post on Blue Sky, like, I don't know if it's just me, but like, I'm just not feeling this. I'm just not as interested in IndyCar as I once was. Like, if you've listened to the Garrison podcast for a while, or if you followed me on social media for a while, like, I was like a huge IndyCar fan in 2020, 21, even before that, like 19, 18, 17. Huge IndyCar fan. I loved it.
All races. It wasn't just the ovals, all races.
I was watching practice, qualifying. I was watching the morning warm up. I was watching.
You would tell me stuff that was happening in qualifying. I'm like, girl, I don't care.
Yeah. Like, I was like, oh my God, Joseph did this. Or like, oh my
Alex
God.
Is yapping about IndyCar again.
I don't. And this wasn't even before like IndyCar lost Peacock. Last year, I did not watch much practice or qualifying. And I didn't like that. And I don't like this year. I'm barely even caring about the races. Like, yeah, we talked about this is probably their best race of the year, but that's a pretty low bar. It's really frustrating.
Yeah, and that Bristol race made it look like the Indy 500.
When I made that post on Blue Sky, like, I'm just not really feeling this. Someone responded to me like, well, maybe IndyCar is just not for you anymore. And I'm just like, I didn't like hearing that because like this was like what I lived and breathed for quite a while. And when Zach, when you and I get back to Indianapolis, I'm going to be right back, because Indianapolis is such a different thing.
And that's kind of the problem.
Special.
As we talked about before.
But that's where we're going back to. I don't want to be just an Indy 500 only fan.
It upsets me. It upsets me when I get so excited for it, and then we go to Detroit the week after, and I watch it on TV, and I'm just like, this is stupid. Yeah. You know what I mean? It's like, it's just not what IndyCar is about.
Yeah.
It's just not. Why are we
I don't want to be that kind of fan where I only care about the Indy 500. I want to care about the whole shebang, but
it's hard.
I'm struggling to do that right now, and this stupid schedule does not help.
Yeah.
You've all heard me talk about thermal enough, but that's what I was just going to say. Why is there another 2-week break? Okay, Easter, I can give it to you. Why are you not racing the weekend after Easter? Why is Barber not there?
Well,
what?
You know what's also weird is they have I believe the test is coming up in 2 weeks. Mm-hmm. The test that's like on a Tuesday or something. I don't know if it's a 3-day test. I don't remember. I was listening to Unverified with David Land and Tony Donahue. If you haven't checked them out, I love them, actually. They're actually a really good podcast. And they had the suggestion of they should swap Barber with the April test. Have an entire weekend in May for oval testing. Maybe even, the weekend before the GP or whatever you want to do. And have Barber closer to, another race on the schedule. Right? Because then, Barber could happen next weekend or the week after. And then after Barber, it's like literally May. It's literally May. And it's like we have Indy testing. We have the Indy GP, Indy qualifying, Indy 500. The month of May. All laid out. That would be kind of cool. Right? And that's what that's what they used to do back in the old days. I mean, you had track time. Right? Mm-hmm. That's what makes the Indy 500 a lot better than the Daytona 500 in some aspects. It's what makes even the Rolex 24, better than the Daytona 500. All that track time they get really gets the fans hyped up, the locals hyped up. So just a thought they could do to fix the schedule without even adding a race. Just switching testing and Barber.
Mind you, St. Pete does not need to be in February or like first week of March.
Yeah.
We've had 3 races and the season started nearly 2 months ago.
Surely they can move it.
Surely
they can move it. I know it's a street course and dates are really weird with streets, cities and stuff, but certainly they can move it.
Anyway, this is a very negative episode. So now we're going to talk about Penske going to the White House because that's going to make that's
going to bring it back up. That's going to lift our spirits.
Okay. Be serious. This is a serious topic.
This is serious.
Penske visited the White House to celebrate the Indy 500 wins, the last 2 NASCAR championships, the Rolex 24s, and the IMSA championship.
Yeah.
But here's the thing.
So wait, who was there? Hold on, who was there? Roger Penske, obviously. Joseph Newgarden. I just want to set the picture. Joseph Newgarden, Ryan Blaney, Joey Logano, Felipe Nasr, I believe Nick Tandy. Was that Nick Tandy, the other dude in that picture?
Van Thor.
Van Thor. Okay.
Lawrence Van Thor.
Okay. Fair. All right. So that's who was there. Okay. Now, what were you saying?
Motorsports are not like other sports where sponsors, where do sponsors come from? They are typically owned by multimillionaires and billionaires. They go and fund these race teams. So it's really difficult, in my opinion, if you are super against, the current president, if you are supported by these mega conglomerate sponsors such as Shell, for example, it's very difficult, I think, to go against that because your whole team is just funded by these super rich people. So when you're expecting these drivers to be vocal against, especially in our current environment, I just don't think you're going to have that kind of happen. Right?
Having that expectation for them is, I don't know. It's hard to put myself in that position because also, let's think about it. how many of these drivers, not Penske drivers specifically, but how many of these drivers are conservative?
They all could be. We
Most
are
of
in
them,
a
I feel like most
conservative
of them
sport.
are, and I accepted. I've accepted that because otherwise, I can't be here as a fan if I can't accept that.
And that's a thing I think people need to realize is that this is a super conservative sport. And that's a core part of why we do this podcast is because we are, you know, not that.
The antithesis.
Yeah.
I can't say that word. You know what I'm trying to say? We are the opposite of that. We are the challenge to that. That's why the Gay Racing Podcast exists.
We are a space for people who are outside of that mindset. We are the Gay Racing Podcast, a place for LGBTQ plus people to have a space to talk about racing. And that's why it's more, I'm trying to think of the right word. Like, we're not like an extreme kind of thing. Like, it's different, you know, whatever.
We are. I almost feel like we are kind of extreme, though, because, again, we're gay NASCAR fans talking about racing. If you tell that to anybody on the street, they're like, I didn't know gay people watch NASCAR.
I didn't know that existed. Yeah, exactly.
That's kind of the whole point of our podcast. I mean, literally.
But, so here's the thing.
So
people were outraged that drivers that they liked and respected went to the White House. In my opinion, you can be disappointed about this. That's perfectly fine.
I am. I'm slightly disappointed.
But you shouldn't be, in my opinion, outraged, and you shouldn't be shocked that this happened, right? Because, again, we're in a conservative sport, and you have sponsorships that make this a lot harder for drivers to back out on. And a lot of people pointed to Scott McLaughlin and Austin Cindric, who were not there. Scott McLaughlin did not win an Indy 500 and did not win a championship. Austin Cindric did not win a championship, and his Daytona 500 was several years ago now. They were not celebrating that.
I was actually thinking about that because I'm like, well, why isn't Will Power there? So I guess 2022 was the cutoff. If you did it, because I'm like, why is Ryan Blaney here? He did not do anything last year. What are you talking? Not to throw shade, but I'm like, why is he here? So I guess Ryan, I feel like Ryan was like Joey's +1. That's what I know. That's not what happened, but that's what it felt like. But
yeah.
But no, again, serious. Like, it is the expectation. I don't even want to say like on the sponsors either. I almost want to put it on like saying no to Roger Penske.
It's probably more so that.
Let's think about Roger Penske for a minute. Look at him. Just look at him. Yeah, he's probably best buds with Trump, not best buds, but you know what I mean. He probably thinks very highly of President Trump, which, you know, if you're surprised, I don't know what to tell you at this point.
Sorry.
You open your eyes. And I love Roger as a motorsports fan. I love the idea of him. I think he's cool. As a gay man or or you know, with someone with my political standing, you know, on the left, it's like, but he's just another one of those motorsports people that, you know what, they're probably they're right wing. It's whatever. Like, what am I going to do about it?
For us, and I would recommend, if you can, you need to be able to separate the personalities from like their personal selves. You can't have a deep parasocial relationship. This is not just for racing, but for any athlete or celebrity. You can't have a deep parasocial relationship with someone, and then when they do something that you disagree with, you can't just explode and rage about it. That's not healthy. It's not healthy.
It shouldn't ruin your life either. Like, it shouldn't like ruin your home.
You can't be miserable because a race car driver that you like went to the White House. You know, and one person told me, "Why is your driver at the White House supporting this guy?" And this person called me a Nazi sympathizer and all this. Like, nonsense.
It's your fault.
Like, I am not Joseph Newgarden's PR person.
Alex, how dare you let Joseph be your best friend, Alex? You're his best friend, obviously. Why did you let him go to the White House? If you would have said no, he would have not went. Definitely. You should have gotten in his Instagram DMs and said, don't go tomorrow. Whatever you do. Call out sick.
But look, I'm not Joseph Newgarden's PR person. I don't control his life. He has his own life, right? I am just a race fan. I just cheer for the guy when he's in a vroom vroom car and going
And we
in
do it
these
to forget
cars.
about the fact that we have a
And that's my
fascist in
thing
the White
too.
House,
This
actually.
is a distraction for me. I'm not looking for every little detail, making sure that these race car drivers who are probably conservative. I'm not saying Joseph and Blaney are. I don't know. I'm not them. They know that. That's their business.
Yeah.
And do I wish it was better and we were not in a situation where everyone was just this like gay ally? They all supported,
Trust me.
black rights. They supported trans rights, everything. Of course I do. But I can't expect that, especially in our political reality right now. I can't expect that. Do I wish that was a thing? Of course I do. But
And I think
it's absurd to expect it. And I think a lot of people on social media especially are expecting it. And then if someone comes out, or not even comes out, just like, is present, it's just like, they're a Nazi. And it's just like, whoa, that's crazy.
yeah.
We need to take
And-
like 20 steps back.
And we definitely have like privilege to be able to just try to forget about what's going on right now. Is it privilege? Or is it, I don't know. Because I mean, on one hand, I'm like, this is what's healthy, right? To find something that you're passionate about to, enjoy your life. But it's still privilege at the same time. I mean,
Well,
I would also sit here and argue that most people that watch motorsports have at least some minor level of privilege if you have time, watch racing on the weekends. And, everyone deserves to have something like that. So I do acknowledge that. I mean, I can have privilege to kind of ignore that and not care about it, even though I do care about it. I'm like, does it make me feel weird to see Joseph in a picture of Donald Trump? Yeah, a little bit.
yeah,
a little bit. And
but
go ahead.
But here's my thing, Zach. We should not be looking for political awareness and comments from athletes who are all millionaires, rich people, because they
true.
benefit the most when you have Republicans in charge. And I don't want to make this all about politics, but that's my thing. Is like, you cannot expect these people to share your views when they are nothing like you. They are in like the upper class and everything. So
yeah,
we're going off on a tangent, but
I think it's a good discussion though. And again, let us know what you think, because this is, what's the word? Like, it's a serious topic. Even though I joke because I'm nervous, but like, I respect people that do set that boundary of, I'm only going to support people that I know, I guess, share my views or whatever that means. Like Bubba Wallace, for example, who's an obvious example because, he's a person of color, the only one in NASCAR, right? Who else? See, that's kind of my point. Like, and who else?
You have, if you're
Lewis
going
Hamilton,
to do that,
Lewis Hamilton,
if you're going to do that, you need to have it in a healthy way. And I'll close with this. I personally have had positive interactions with Joseph Newgarden, and I have heard positive stories about him and how he has reacted to someone saying that they are LGBTQ plus. And same with Ryan Blaney. I have heard people's stories telling me about their interactions with them, and they have reacted positively to those things. Those stories aren't for me to share, but from what I have heard, I'm personally not concerned about their views on the world, But that aside, I'm not going to tell you that you can't have a negative view on Joseph Newgarden because he went here, but you shouldn't go after me or Zach.
Going after you, that's the crazy part to me. Like, what?
Like,
how
I'm my own person. Fault? And it's also like when Larson did his whole thing in 2020, Zach, people were going after you for being a Kyle Larson fan.
Like, what did I do?
Yeah. So be civil about it. Have your own opinions and don't attack other people who are fans of drivers for things.
And when you brought up the parasocial part, the Larson thing in 2020, when he said that racial slur, that ended any kind of connection with, like, any parasocial connection I could have ever had with anybody. I swear, I still have not really felt the same about anybody since then. including Joseph Newgarden, not because of anything he's done. It's just like,
Mm-hmm.
and I've grown up and, I've been doing a full-time job now. So, there's a lot of other important things in my life too. It's just like, since 2020, it's just not my entire world. And that's probably healthy, to be honest. It wasn't really that. But I don't know. I feel like every time Larson wins, and of course he wins a lot, and even Joseph when he won the Indy 500, I just feel like there's been a part missing in me because it's almost like trauma. Now I'm getting off on a tangent. Even though I wasn't victimized in it, I just feel like there was part of me that was kind of ripped away when it happened.
You lost a part of yourself, yeah.
Yeah, and I never really got it back.
Be healthy with your parasocialism, because in my opinion that's
a funny word.
It is a funny word. But just
be healthy with your unhealthy thing.
Because it can get to a bad point where you're like, oh, that's my friend and he betrayed me. It's like, you don't even know.
Like, yeah, you think you know them, but no, you don't know them. Remember that you don't know them. So I don't know. It's just, I hate the whole situation because this is racing and we could talk about it forever. It's just and it's uncomfortable. Mm-hmm. If you're uncomfortable, I get it. I'm uncomfortable too. And I got to talk about it on the podcast.
We'll close on this. Let us know what you think. Let us know how you feel about everything, and if you have any words of criticism on how we talked about this, like not in like
don't call him a Nazi.
Look, that's insane. Like I that was crazy.
Please, people are weird.
I don't know. Be civil about it. Anyway.
But also, we're talking, like, someone made that about Joseph there were people making it about Joseph seeing Trump when really it was about them hating Joseph. Mm-hmm. You just want to hate on Joseph right now. Like, that's kind of disrespectful to the situation, in my opinion.
I agree.
But we're talking tea. Oh, this is the tea, though.
This is the T, and sticking with Penske, they did win 3 in a row in IMSA.
They won IMSA, though.
7. That IMSA race was kind of a letdown for me too.
Yeah,
the racing across the board kind of sucked this weekend.
It was a bad weekend of racing. I think what hurt IMSA is one, they had like 2 safety cars that I think ruined the flow of the race. Like that race with green flag stops would have been really cool for the GTPs. The GTPs didn't have to, or did they have to do green flag stops? They had yellow flag stops. I don't think they had to do green flag stops. I don't remember at this point. But anyways, I almost think that race is too short. So it's their shortest race of the year. It's 1 hour and 40 minutes. Normally their sprint races are 2 hours and 40 minutes. And part of that is because they're sharing the track with obviously IndyCar, but also GT America. They had a race after IMSA, the Super Drift Challenge. I don't know what that is. I guess they drift. Stadium Super Trucks. Long Beach is very busy on the weekend of the Grand Prix, understandably so. So IMSA, they don't have that much time to do their race, right? And there's no support IMSA series there. It's just the WeatherTech series being a support series to IndyCar, basically, which I think is good for that series. I think anytime IndyCar and IMSA can work together and be at the same weekend, I think that's really good for them, right?
Yeah.
And it's also really important that they're at Long Beach in California. That's where all the rich people are. That's where also, if you watch the race, so they only had 2 classes. They did not have all of the 4 classes like they do at Daytona and Sebring. They had the GTP class, which is, the top class, really, important to have at most of their races. But they also had the GTD class, the GTD like Pro-Am, not the one with all the factory teams, not GTD Pro, which makes sense because think about it. A lot of GT, and I was talking to you, I was kind of teaching you about this, Alex. Like a lot of GT3 teams are funded by gentleman drivers. So those are drivers who are not professionals or they're rated lower, like silver, bronze level drivers, but they have money because they're rich. They're rich people. Okay.
We were just talking about rich people. Yeah.
They have enough money to buy a seat in a GT3 car, but they're not professional. So they belong in the GTD category. Well, a lot of those rich people probably live in California.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of a perfect situation of the GTD class gets the race at Long Beach, probably, where gentleman drivers can. I don't know if there were any examples of that this weekend, but it's kind of I don't know. To me, it's a perfect example. And then at Detroit, you'll see the factory GT3 teams race because it's Ford and Chevy's home and stuff. So Corvette and Ford Mustangs can race on the streets of Detroit, which is really cool if you think about it. So yeah, so the event has to exist for IMSA. It's cool, but yeah, the race was a little mid because we didn't really see. We saw some cool battle. We saw some stupid moves. There were some stupid dive bombs. There was one Lambo GT3. I forgot who it was. I don't think it was the Wayne Taylor racing one, but they basically put someone on the wall at, I believe, turn 5, turn 6. So I saw some dumb moves that did not make me happy. But hey, better than NASCAR at Bristol.
You know what else was better than NASCAR at Bristol was the Formula One race.
Jesus Christ, NASCAR is getting. You know what? Okay, you know what word of the week or phrase of the week has been, Alex?
What?
On Twitter. I don't know if you've been paying attention.
I haven't been on Twitter.
Belt to ass has been phrase of the week. Someone used it, I believe. I don't know if it was when Larson dominated the other day on Xfinity.
Yeah.
Someone used it, and I remember someone replied being like, huh? What are you saying? And they're like, sorry, that's just an expression. I've been saying belt to ass a lot this week. Well, no.
Well,
I've been hearing about it. Yeah.
Would
have been more entertaining than the Bristol race, I'll tell you what.
That'd be more entertaining. But what's belt to ass was definitely this F1 race. Oscar Piastri
put belt
dominated
to ass in the F1 field.
Damn.
God, and we didn't have to pay for it.
Yeah, dang. Our Patreon member Finley said that Oscar Piastri is probably McLaren's number 1 now. I'm not so sure, but I do find it interesting that McLaren might be in a situation that Mercedes was in 2016. Is that when Nico Rosberg won the championship?
Yes.
It's going to be interesting because they are only 3 points apart in the championship already. And Verstappen's only 8 behind, but clearly McLaren's got a bit of an advantage overall. Yeah, F1's interesting. You're still laughing about belt to ass.
I'm still laughing because it was Mamba Smith. He was the one who said it about Larson at I don't know if it was the truck race. It was the Xfinity. It was the Xfinity race. He said about the Xfinity race.
That's child abuse.
And then Jesse Love replied, "Belt to ass is right."
Oh,
yeah. So, anyways, F1. Sorry, I was laughing about it. You said that Oscar's not number 1. That he won't be number 1.
I don't know. I think it's gonna be interesting.
Well, listen, because Lando, and I was hearing this over the weekend. Lando admitted that he's starting to struggle with the car. Like, ESPN, Nate Saunders from ESPN, he had an article about it. Lando, every session, Lando's just like what he thought was like going to make him comfortable in the car. All of a sudden, nope, he has to change something. Like, he has to change that part of his driving style, which is something that's always going to be really cool about F1 is driving these cars. It's easy, yet it's not easy. Like, I think it's easy to drive an F1 car, but it's hard to extract those tenths and hundredths that you need to get out of it, which I think is obviously what Lando's expected to do, being at the top of the field. And Lando's been reporting, like, every session something's happening. Like, the wind is a different direction, and now I have to change how I drive the car. Do you think Oscar Piastri is having those same struggles, Alex? Just from your perspective?
I mean, it didn't look like it.
It certainly didn't look like it to me. So you say that, if Finley is saying that Oscar Piastri is probably McLaren's number 1, if the trend continues, I agree with you. Because who has 2 Grand Prix wins? Oscar Piastri.
True.
And, Lando, sure, he won Australia, but Oscar was right behind him the entire time. And Oscar made a mistake, of course, but I'm just saying, just on pure pace, Oscar.
Can I just say, if Oscar wins the championship, I'd be really excited. I really like Oscar.
I saw someone say, if Oscar wins a championship before Charles, George Russell, Lando Norris, these guys who have been rookies since like 2018, 2019, who have been near the top in these really good teams forever, it feels like at this point, right? And then Oscar Piastri in his, ain't this his 3rd full-time season?
I think it's 3rd. Yeah. That's funny.
Just gonna stroll on into the World Drivers Championship.
Yeah.
F1 is so compelling. And Verstappen had major struggles over the weekend. F1, man. And we had, you know what? Was Oscar Piastri running away with the race? Of course. We at least got to see somewhat of a battle between Norris and, I believe, George Russell for second. Nothing happened, but it was something. There was a lot of passing and overtaking. Tire deg was really high, so tires.
Last thing in the T, not much to say about it, but Tony Stewart got his first Top Fuel NHRA win this weekend in Las Vegas.
That's like when you hear about someone you went to school with and they did something really cool.
Yeah. It's like he transferred schools, and you'll see on Facebook that he's like doing good over there.
I like that.
Good
that
for
just
him.
Makes me happy. Top Fuel, is that the ones that look like anteaters? Yeah, those are the cars that look like anteaters.
Anteaters.
They look like anteaters, don't they? Do you know what I'm talking about?
That's funny.
Do you know what I'm talking about? Yeah, they look like anteaters.
They're Hold on, I need to look up an anteater.
You don't know what an anteater looks like?
I know what it does, but I just looked it up.
It's got like a long, pointy, flat nose. Like it's an anteater.
That's so funny. Only you would say that.
I love them.
Okay.
Funny Car's still my favorite because they got, Mustangs and stuff, but I think.
Yeah.
So, or is that Pro Stock? I don't know.
Well,
I don't watch drag racing.
To be determined if we're having an episode next week. I don't know if we're going to watch that. We talked about that earlier. But no picks. If we don't do an episode, we'll probably record a little thingy for TikTok or whatever.
Because Talladega is the next race.
Yeah. So speak of belt to ass, Zach, I did win fantasy.
Damn. You almost swept the weekend. I swept the weekend a few weeks ago, and was one spot away from getting you the sweep. Same driver too.
I won with Larson. You had Hamlin, you finished second. So we were 1-2 all day in NASCAR.
I'm so curious on how this fantasy season's going to play out, because I'm like, if the same drivers keep winning the races and we keep picking the same drivers, girl, that might get boring. I have to switch up our rule set a little bit next year.
Might have to go back to our old rules where we had
I don't want to go
5 picks in.
I'd rather do something where it's like we can only pick a certain driver a certain amount of times. That would be more interesting to me, but we'll see how this season plays out. We'll let the whole season play out before we even make that kind of decision, because,
Next Cup race is Talladega after Easter, and then IndyCar, as we said earlier, is off until the first weekend in May for whatever reason.
Everyone's go ahead. Points.
Zach has 8. I have 7 in NASCAR and IndyCar. Zach has 3, and I have 2.
Got that 1 point lead. I will say everyone's probably like, oh, thank God Talladega's next to save us.
No,
girl. Super speedways suck.
And then Texas is after that.
If anything, I think, I don't know, they're still probably just going to wreck or just ride in line. I don't know. You know how these... Super speedway racing, it fools me because I forget exactly why I don't like them until I watch the race again. I'm like, oh yeah, this is why I don't like them. Because it's just the wrecks. So yeah, we'll see.
Yeah.
At least it's the breath of fresh air, I guess. So.
Well, now that we're done, after we upload, I'm going to start my Legend of Korra rewatch, Zach. I am very excited to do that. Our kind comment this week, we had several comments on social media and on YouTube congratulating us on 200 episodes of the Gay Racing Podcast. So thank you guys.
Yeah, thank you.
Our Patreon comments throughout the episode, you can join in on that at patreon.com/gayracingpod. I post a little thing, usually either Sunday night or Monday morning, saying, hey, send in your thoughts. Several of you guys did this week. If you'd like, rate us 5 stars on Spotify and Apple, or read any 5-star Apple reviews. Consider liking and subscribing on YouTube. We're, I believe, as of recording, 4 subs from 500. So we're really getting there. Pretty cool. You can follow the pod at Gay Racing Pod on Blue Sky, TikTok, and Instagram, and Threads. Technically, I don't actually post that.
And I definitely suggest follow the podcast in case we don't if we don't have an episode next week, we will announce.
We'll let you know over there.
We'll let you know. So just so you're not surprised next Monday or next Tuesday or whenever you listen, you're like, I miss the Gay Racing Podcasters. They're not talking about racing. They're not talking about Xfinity or Rockingham.
And then you can follow Zach at Dreamy Zach Racing on Blue Sky and Twitter, and I'm on Blue Sky at Newgaden.
Yeah. Oh, F1's at Saudi Arabia next weekend too. That's great.
Well, if it's a banger, we might have an F1 episode.
You want to go?
We might not come back.
I don't know
if we go.
I don't know. Anyways, we'll see y'all. We'll see y'all next episode, whenever that is. Either we're going to talk about Rockingham and Saudi Arabia, or we're going to talk about good old Talladega. Yeah, man.
Shake and bake.
Shake and bake. Yay. Okay. We'll see y'all next time. Stay safe. Thank you for listening. Bye-bye.
Bye.